Do y'all remember when Marvin Sapp told them to close the doors and held his congregation hostage for hours against their will? Child, it turns out that not only has he been manipulating folks into giving him all their money, but he is allegedly also indulging in some serious witchcraft. And that's why these people are still in his church after all the BS he puts them through. I mean, once that video went viral of him locking up his congregation and forcing them to give him their money, everyone and their mama called out the foolishness and accused him of being a fake, money-hungry pastor. But for some reason, the church members are locked out of reality and they still think he's gonna lead them to heaven. The foolery has gotten so bad that the FBI are now on his tail and they are investigating his finances down to the last detail. Not only is he out here embezzling the hell out of them folks, but he was also caught indulging in some serious fraudulent activities by making his members give out their social security in exchange for salvation into heaven. Marvin has been at this for a while, but he overdid himself a few weeks ago when a video went viral of him holding his church members hostage because they refused to raise $40,000. In the video, he was ordering the ushers to lock the door till every single person out of the 1,000 church members paid at least $20, including those who were watching online. But it wasn't just the church members who were getting ripped. The preachers he works with weren't spared from the scam either because he asked them to also donate $100 each. With the way he was talking, it really sounded like he was charging for the VIP section of a club instead of a church. Especially the time when he said it cost to be in the church. Why should it cost to be in the church? It's okay to take a few offerings here and there, but to lock people up in a building against their will because they didn't pay the $20 is crazy. A lot of people weren't here for this mess, not because he was asking for the donation, but because he was demanding money from already struggling folks who had already paid their offering. This $20 demand was an extra fee that he was charging them people. People called him out for using God to extort poor, impressionable folks and ripping them off their money so he can run off and live a lavish life with his family. One person reacted by saying, "Marvin Sapp would be getting Marvin slapped if he held me hostage for money, when he could go in the studio and make my annual salary in a couple of months. That ain't the work of the Lord." Another person said, laughing my A off, "Marvin Sapp ain't never been wrapped too tight, so I'm not surprised that he held that congregation hostage until they gave $40,000. Never would have paid it." The backlash got so bad that Marvin ended up posting a statement on Facebook where he defended his decision to hold his congregation hostage. He said the reason why people felt like he was holding his congregation hostage is because those people barely ever actually go to church and that they are unfamiliar with how the church works. He said it's a normal thing for pastors to ask for donations when the congregation meets and that this isn't something that would have been a problem if people actually went to church. He said, "Some have taken issue with a particular moment when I instructed the ushers rather firmly to close the doors during the offering," Sapp wrote. To those unfamiliar with the church context or who may not regularly attend worship gatherings, this has been misinterpreted as holding people hostage as well as offensive. That was never my intent. He added, "Movement during this sacred exchange can be distracting and at times even risky." He said, "My directive was not about control, it was about creating a safe, focused, and reverent environment for those choosing to give and for those handling the resources."
Do y'all remember when Marvin Sapp locked his congregation inside the church and forced them to pay up? Turns out he's not only been manipulating folks for money, but is also accused of dabbling in witchcraft. That viral video of him demanding $40,000 and ordering ushers to lock the doors had everyone calling him out as a fake, money-hungry pastor. Even preachers working with him weren't spared. He asked them for $100 each, making it feel more like a VIP club than a church. People blasted him for extorting struggling members, with one saying Marvin Sapp would be getting Marvin slapped if he tried that with me. The backlash got so bad that the FBI is now digging into his finances. Marvin later defended himself on Facebook, claiming his words were misinterpreted and that he just wanted a safe, focused environment. During offerings,
because according to some members who were present when this happened, they claim that the whole reason he even demanded for the doors to be closed was because he saw some members leaving early and he wasn't about to lose money. The crazy thing is that Marvin wasn't the only pastor that tried to extort the congregation that day, because another one of the preachers at the same event actually tried to auction off God's blessing to the highest bidder. He wasn't just asking for $20. He was asking for $800 and he wanted it on the spot. He said this $800 was going to help them get blessings for their new beginnings in life. He then went on to demand an extra $500 because apparently God told him some people need closure, but for that to happen, they had to pay their way into getting that closure by giving up $500 of their money. And of course, if they didn't have it in cash, they were more than welcome to Venmo, Cash App, or Apple Pay it. Hell, they could even hit up their bank and wire transfer it. All modes of payments were accepted.
many people didn't believe Marvin's excuse at all, according to members who were there. The real reason he demanded the doors be closed was because he saw people leaving early and didn't want to lose money. And Marvin wasn't even the only one pulling stunts that day. Another preacher at the same event tried to auction off God's blessings to the highest bidder, asking for $800 up front, promising new beginnings. Then he demanded an extra $500 for closure, claiming God told him so. If that wasn't wild enough, he even encouraged people to pay through Venmo, Cash App, Apple Pay, or wire transfer if needed. Basically, every possible way to squeeze money out of folks.
Service, and they weren't letting these folks leave till they hit that goal and over. Apparently, Marvin and his fellow preachers have been at this for a while, but this is the first time people outside of the church are getting to know what goes on inside of it. And that's the real and only reason he came out to put out that statement. And y'all noticed he didn't actually take accountability in his statement either. He defended his actions and blamed us for not being familiar with how the church works because we don't go to church. In fact, as he was demanding that $40K, he was actually wearing a Rolex. Marvin is currently the senior pastor at the Chosen Vessel Church in Texas, and according to some folks who live in the area, most of the people who attend the church are old people who mainly depend on their retirement checks to survive, and Marvin is getting most of it in his pockets by convincing them to give away a huge chunk of it to the church. Not only that, but some people are now also speculating that he used some form of witchcraft to keep the congregation in the church, despite the obvious signs that he's just using them to get rich. Now, of course, there's no way to really confirm these witchcraft allegations since it's just rumors, but it's beginning to go viral. And people feel like it's the only thing that explains the loyalty his congregation has to him. As usual, people had their own thoughts, like this person who said, God is not telling the pastor to tell folks to give. God will speak to you directly and purpose you to give according to your heart. Another person said, this is why I don't go to church. They put this guilt trip on you if you cannot give what they are demanding during a love offering. Besides, there are way too many offerings for me. But now I want to know your thoughts. What do you think of Marvin getting exposed for extorting his congregation? And do y'all think the witchcraft allegations?
It's almost like these preachers had a set amount of money they wanted to hit before ending service, and no one was leaving until they reached that goal. Apparently, Marvin and his crew have been doing this for a while, but this is the first time outsiders are finding out. That's the only reason he rushed to put out a statement. And did you notice? He never actually took accountability. Instead, he defended himself and blamed the public for not understanding how church works. Meanwhile, while demanding $40,000, Marvin was flexing a Rolex on his wrist. Marvin is currently the senior pastor at Chosen Vessel Church in Texas. According to locals, most members are elderly folks living on retirement checks, and he's pocketing a big chunk of it by convincing them to give. Some even speculate he's using witchcraft to keep the congregation loyal, despite all the red flags. Of course, there's no proof, but the rumors are spreading fast. People are speaking out too. One person said, "God is not telling the pastor to tell folks to give. God will speak to you directly according to your heart." Another added, "This is why I don't go to church. They guilt trip you into giving more and more during every so-called love offering." So, what do you think? Did Marvin really get exposed for extorting his congregation? Could the witchcraft rumors actually be true? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to check out the next messy video right here.